Well, Bing had a series of very lucky encounters with people who were able to help him advance. For example, and sometimes they weren't even personal encounters. For example, William Paley famously heard a Crosby record while he was sailing across the Atlantic and said, "Who is that guy?" and then called his people in New York and said, "Hire him for his fledgling CBS network." But I think the main thing to remember is that Crosby and Al Rinker, when they were performing in vaudeville on the West Coast, almost exclusively in California, in the middle 1920s, must have been very good. We have no film or recording of them, but every time they auditioned, they got a job, and every place they worked, they got good reviews. And I guess the main thing that really took them out of California and started to bring them around the country was that two members of Paul Whiteman's orchestra happened to go to the vaudeville show in L.A. where Bing and Al were performing and came back raving about how good they were to Whiteman. And Whiteman summoned them to his dressing room. Whiteman was performing at the same time in another theater. And had not, although he said that he had gone to see them, he actually hadn't and was relying on the word of mouth of the two jazz guys in the band who knew something about jazz and had a taste for it. And Whiteman signed them, asked them to meet him in Chicago, put them on tour so that they got a lot of work all over the Midwest, a lot of apprenticeship time. They met a lot of important musicians during that trip, including Louis Armstrong. And then they got to New York, where they famously flopped, but soon afterwards Whiteman gave them another shot and hooked them up with Harry Barris, and they became the Rhythm Boys. And from that point on, there was really no stopping them. Within 5 years, Bing was on CBS. He was making movies for Mack Sennett. And in 1934, 3 years after that, Jack Cap and his brother Dave started Decca Records, basically on the fame of Crosby's and the success of Crosby's record sales. And a year after that, in 1935, he signed to take over the Kraft Music Hall, and his movies were huge, and he was one of the highest paid and best known stars in the country, and it just kept going up, and then sort of climaxing in the post-war years.